Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Loki, and today we're going to be talking about 2020 5th round pick and training camp standout Alton Robinson. Before that though, I do have a quick announcement. I just wanted to let everyone know that the Madden 21 Face of the Franchise series is going to be moving over to the second channel, along with any other Madden 21 content. Honestly, this is mainly just an excuse for me to be more consistent on my second channel, and since school is starting up for me soon, it's going to get a bit hectic, and I'd rather, be a little bit more lenient on not posting the Madden on a consistent schedule on the second channel rather than on the main channel. I like to stay as consistent as possible on this channel. So yeah, if you are interested in Madden 21 content and even NBA 2K21 content when that comes out in September, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the second channel. That's where all the gaming and any other videos would actually be. But now to get into the video, Alton Robinson has been a pretty interesting name to come out of the training camp this year. He's been getting some pretty high praise from Pete Carroll along with some other players. And as someone I left out of my top 3 2020 breakout candidates, Alton Robinson might just be yet another player that is doing very well throughout training camp, gets more opportunities, and actually ends up doing well and producing with those opportunities. The Seattle Seahawks drafted Alton Robinson in the 5th round of the 2020 NFL Draft. And there were a lot of people that I saw that were very excited about this pick and thought that Alton Robinson could just be a star if he's given opportunities. And I think that this might just be one of those late round great players that the Seahawks end up drafting, because he seems like he has a lot of promise. He is a great athlete, and he's been getting a lot of good talk from Pete Carroll and other players around him when it comes to how he's been performing throughout training camp. In a press conference after training camp a few days ago, Bruce Irvin had this to say about Alton Robinson.
I think Alton is doing a really good job of just coming to work every day, finding something to get better at each and every day, and he's really working his tail off, and it's translating for him. He's making plays, he's getting sacks. Hopefully he can keep doing that, and hopefully he can contribute and play a major role for us when the season starts.
Now, this is definitely some pretty high praise from Bruce Irvin, who's done pretty well for himself throughout his career. And if Alton Robinson can actually start to contribute earlier on to the season and become a big part of our pass rush, that would be something that would be great for the Seahawks, because if Alton Robinson can be a player who does really well this year in his rookie year and then ends up, progressing and becoming a big part of the Seahawks pass rush, and he actually ends up making pretty big impacts throughout his career for the Seahawks, it would definitely be something that would be good for the Seahawks, because the pass rush has been a huge weakness recently, and it's been a struggle for the Seahawks to build up the pass rush. And they've brought in some players like Benson Mayowa, Bruce Irvin, of course, and they have some pretty good promise to actually bring in some help with the pass rush. But Seahawks are going to be having to pay a lot of people, and the players they brought in are veterans. So if we can have a young player that'll come in and be consistent, continue to grow and do well for the Seahawks in the pass rush, it would definitely be a very good thing. Early on in the training camp, Alton Robinson was definitely a big question mark, because he came into training camp overweight. He came into training camp about 15 to 20 pounds over his playing weight at Syracuse, and there were reports saying that he was lazy and he just put on a ton of weight, and this is really bad news for him coming into the season, especially as a late round pick, coming in overweight, like over what you were expected to be. And if you didn't actually end up doing well in that training camp and you actually put on bad weight and ended up doing poorly, that could be really bad for a late round rookie. But apparently Alton Robinson came in about 15-20 pounds over his playing weight in Syracuse, maintained his athleticism, and he's been doing very well with that added weight. When asked about Alton Robinson being heavier than expected, Pete Carroll had this to say. He surprised all of us in that he's bigger than we thought. He's in the 270s, it's helped him, he's a powerful rusher, he already has good finesse and good moves and understands how to play on the edge and all, but you can see him break the edge down some because he's stronger and faster than some of the sleeker guys who are in the 250s. I think he was at 277, he's running in the 4.6s, so you put the whole package together, he's done well, he's done real well. Along with this, Pete Carroll also praised Alton Robinson for how he's been able to learn the defensive scheme and translate it to the practice field. So honestly, this is looking really good for Alton Robinson. Any rookie that's coming in getting high praise, any player that's coming in getting high praise throughout training camp who the Seahawks really weren't familiar with coming into this season, definitely some good news, especially since, Benson Mayowa, Alton Robinson, both doing really well. Those are going to be some pretty big parts of the defense. The pass rush is going to be very important for our defense to succeed, because, we have good linebackers, we have a great secondary, and, the pass rush, it's going to have to do well if we want those other parts of the defense to flourish. Now, in this quote, Pete Carroll ended up mentioning that Alton Robinson was still running in the 4.6s with his increased weight, and that's definitely a good thing, because one of the big things that Alton Robinson had going for him was that he definitely performed very well in the draft combine. With top 5 numbers for defensive linemen in the 40-yard dash, vertical jump, 3-cone drill, and the 20-yard shuffle, Alton Robinson definitely had quite a good athletic profile on him. And if he was able to keep that athleticism, like Pete Carroll said, while putting on extra weight, while getting stronger, that's definitely going to be something that is huge for Alton Robinson. Because like I said, he was top 5 in the 20-yard dash, vertical jump, 20-yard shuttle, and the 3-cone drill. Those are definitely more speed and finesse-based drills. He did somewhat struggle in the bench press and the broad jump, which are a little bit more strength-dependent drills. But if he is able to put on the strength while maintaining the athleticism that he had before, you know, he might just become a very great athlete, and that's something that would be huge for the Seattle Seahawks. Another thing that is definitely good for Alton Robinson is that he's currently working with Cliff Avril, someone who was definitely a big part of the Seahawks pass rush during the Legion of Boom days. I think Cliff Avril will definitely be a good mentor for Alton Robinson. He'll allow him to progress, he'll allow him to grow, and if Alton Robinson does become a starter for the Seahawks, becomes a big part of their defense, I definitely think Cliff Avril will be a good mentor for Alton Robinson, because Cliff Avril, he's been to the Super Bowl, he's had success throughout the playoffs, he's played very meaningful snaps throughout his career, and if Alton Robinson does become a starter, becomes a player that gets a lot of opportunities, and the Seahawks, you know, get to the playoffs, I think that Cliff Avril will definitely be able to help him, you know, maintain his composure and help him in a ton of different ways. But something that's still definitely up in the air is where he'd actually be playing on the defensive line. He was drafted as a Leo, and you know, there's a lot of players that are definitely good filling that position. Benson Mayowa will fill that position, Bruce Irvin will fill that position, and you know, there's been speculation that him and his trainer kind of decided that he needs to put on this extra weight that he ended up putting on throughout the offseason before training camp, so that he can fit into the 5 technique spot where he'll be able to get a bigger opportunity, since there's less, you know, guaranteed players that are going to be playing there that like aren't Benson Mayowa and Bruce Irvin. I think you got LJ Collier and Rasheem Green in that spot, so you know, might be a bad thing for Rasheem Green, might be a bad thing for LJ Collier, but I think that Alton Robinson could possibly be able to take that spot, get a lot more opportunities at the 5 technique spot. And if it is actually true that him and his trainer decided that, hey, I should put on some extra weight so that I can play at the 5 technique spot and get some more opportunities than I would at the Leo where I was drafted, then you know, all power to them. That is a great play from those guys. That is just 4D chess. They have planned that out ahead, and if that actually ends up being what happens, good for them. And I would love to see Alton Robinson get the opportunities. He's definitely seemed like someone who's gotten a lot of hype throughout the training camp. He's gotten some good praise from players and coaches, so I'm pretty excited for him. And Pete Carroll, when he was asked one last time about it, he had this to say: he's made a really good impression. We're probably more excited than we thought we could be at this time, this early in camp. That is a real positive. I'm not sure where his weight will settle by the end of camp, but he's a powerful guy. We don't want to take that away from him and try to make him some light guy. That's not his style. He's got good hips and lower body strength and power. It shows up. So with that, there's definitely been some really good things said about Alton Robinson, and the thing that was initially a negative coming into training camp, him being a bit overweight, was actually turned into a positive. He ended up, you know, putting on some strength, maintaining his athleticism apparently, and that's definitely going to be a good thing for him and the Seahawks alike. And I think that, you know, he might just get some more opportunities. He's definitely impressed Pete Carroll, which is the main person you kind of got to impress as the head coach. So I think that Alton Robinson might just have a very good season if he's given the opportunities. I think he is another potential breakout candidate for 2020, and if not for 2020, I think that he might become a pretty big part of the Seahawks pass rush going into the future if he can continue to progress and continue to impress like he has throughout training camp. So with that, let me know in the comments down below what you think about Alton Robinson. Are you excited for him going into 2020? With all this coming out, all the high praise about him, I am pretty excited for him. It definitely seems like there's a lot of players on the Seahawks pass rush that have a chance of doing really well. A lot of players that are being talked about really highly and have a chance to make a pretty big impact, but we just have to see how they do. I think that if they do make an impact, I think the rest of the defense will definitely do really well around the pass rush. It really just starts with the pass rush. If those players that have a chance of doing well can come in, do well, I think it'll be great for the Seahawks defense. But let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the second channel for Madden 21 content and NBA 2K21 content when that drops in September. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.